Welcome back to episode 8 of the Illuminated Path podcast. What are we talking about today?
We have a few more things to discuss from our last episode on relationships, so I guess sort of a part 2.
Yeah.
How's the week?
The week is good. It's definitely fall here. I am freezing
Yep.
every day. Every morning we wake up very cold and we have refused to turn our heat on. We're waiting for our wood stove insert, which is being installed
We're so close.
this week. We went to a festival in town with our really good friends and their daughter. That was really fun. And then we also went to a corn maze. John got us lost.
That's a blatant lie.
We skipped half of the maze.
We agreed on that direction.
We missed like half the maze, but we finished. We just kind of skipped part of it.
It's like once you get in, they just throw you off.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize until 15 minutes later that you went the wrong way when you first got in.
It was fun though.
Yeah.
And then we had a delicious apple cider donut, like freshly baked.
That was good.
It was very good. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, same, but so we got our tattoos. We did
Yep.
couples tattoos. We didn't do like our names or anything, but you got a lock and I got a key.
And a beautiful rose.
I know. I always wanted a tattoo with a rose because most of my tattoos are like really, they're about like suicide recovery and this really morbid stuff and morality and having a tattoo that's not on my arm that has, it's pretty. Yeah. It's very different.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah. So we had a couple more things that we wanted to talk about after that last episode. And I think that, we kind of had this discussion of like how much of this is holistic living, but also, the holistic component allows you to bring a lot of that into your relationship. So let's kind of just start with appreciation because you and I, we always do that. We always say, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, we said it in the last episode too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even for just the small things like the chores that you're going to be doing anyways, and it's like I've heard people say like, "No, I don't thank my partner for taking the garbage out or doing the dishes," but it's like it just feels good for that to have that recognition and to have that appreciation. And so you and I are really good about always saying, "Thank you, I appreciate you, like thank you for doing that," because even though they're expected things, because again, they're things we communicated about and agreed upon to have those expectations.
Yeah.
It's still really nice to feel appreciated for the work that you are putting in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's kind of an interesting discussion is like people who are like, well, why would I say thank you? It has to get done anyway. It's just something that.
It's just like part of adulthood and life and running a household.
Right. But
Right.
it's kind of this recognition of, I see you. Thank you. And your effort is noticed. And I feel like it's such a small thing that adds a lot to our relationship.
Definitely. I mean, the frequency and vibration of gratitude, right? And showing that appreciation is like the highest level of a frequency that you can be in.
Yeah.
So doing that on a regular basis for everyday regular things is so important.
Yeah. And bringing it into your relationship, having that gratitude about your life in general, and then bringing that into your relationship and having that gratitude for your partner and for, the way you guys are running the household and how the relationship is working.
Yeah. And another quick thing on that too, I just thought of is that every night, like usually before we go to bed, you ask me, what are you grateful for today?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. So we ask ourselves every night before we get in bed, what are you grateful for today? And I mean, I think you do. You have a journal where you do your gratitude practice. I have that's a part of my like morning routine. But at night, there's this tendency for our thoughts to be racing and us thinking about, so many things of what didn't work well that day. Oh, this has to get done. And it tends to go to a negative place. And I think having that gratitude practice right before we get in bed helps rewrite that script. And go to bed with positive thoughts, go to bed in gratitude. And, I'm not well versed enough on the subconscious mind,
I
but
was just gonna bring that up.
yeah, there's a lot there in terms of like you're shutting your body down for 8 hours
Mhm.
and you're giving it a level of programming to take into that period of your life. So taking in gratitude before that is going to be much more powerful than the negativity of not having enough and things not going well.
Yeah, and just thinking back on the stress of the day. And so we do that and, it allows us to reflect on the day. We always say, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful
Yep.
for our dogs. And it allows us to bring ourselves into a good headspace before we go to bed because so many people, they lay down and their head starts flying and
Yeah, I've been there.
yeah. So it's a nice practice. It takes like 2, 3 minutes, not
Yeah.
even.
I mean, it's so small, it's so simple, but the results are unbelievable when you really make time to put gratitude in your day, especially as a couple and as a team.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so another piece that we wanted to talk about that we thought about right after we finished recording our last episode was talking a little bit about like that honeymoon phase, right? That everyone goes through. It's right at the start of your relationship and you're just overwhelmed with feelings of butterflies and excitement for the newness and
That infatuation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've heard I know we talked a little bit last episode about like the reality TV shows and we've seen people talk about that there and I've just seen a lot of people say like, well that ends. Well that doesn't last.
Mm, yeah.
And like there's a level of that I think that's accurate. It's not going to be that exact same because the newness part does wear off. Like obviously if you guys have been in each other's lives for an extended period of time, it's not new anymore, but I don't think that the feelings and like the excitement and the butterflies, like that doesn't have to just be gone forever. Like it's kind of sad that people assume that and think that and plan for that.
Yeah. I think for me, I kind of just see it as like that whole honeymoon phase, the infatuation period, it has more to do with the fact that there aren't additional variables. Like
Mm,
as you become a couple, there's a household, there's financials, there's, routines and things that you've agreed on, expectations and assumptions. And in that initial infatuation period, that honeymoon phase, a lot of times those variables aren't there.
right.
And so I think it's really just like the relationship becomes more complex, but you can't act as if those complexities make the relationship boring because if that's what you plan for, that's what you'll get.
Yeah. And I think that it be it makes like all of those difficulties and the day to day and work and your house and all of that, like it makes it just the focus
Mm,
that you just forget to focus on the other part of like why you guys even became a couple in the first place
yeah.
because those feelings were there and can absolutely still be there.
Do you think like people falling out of love are more so just not paying attention to their love?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a level of that because, like you said, I mean, it's a choice and it's a
Yeah.
commitment and it's an every single day. Like when you wake up, you're making that choice and that commitment. And in order to commit to that love and still have that loving that relationship that requires effort on both parts.
Yeah. I
It
mean,
requires actions that you take all the time to continue to keep that alive.
yeah, it's waking up and making that decision. I think, that's another kind of sidebar there is like people think love is supposed to be this like it's meant to be, it's effortless and that's just not reality. Like that's the fairy tale of a movie that you've been sold, which, the movie gave you a 2-hour period that had some rose-colored glass that portrayed everything as wonderful.
Right.
It's just not the reality of how a relationship's going to be all the time.
Right. And so how can you continue to work on that every day? Like what are the types of things that you can do to keep those feelings alive between you guys and not lose that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked a lot about this, like some of the things that we do. I think the big one is really date nights.
Mhm.
We started that. When did we start that? Like a year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think a couple years ago.
And I mean, I think that's been really good for us. It's challenging, right? Like there's times it just doesn't work or we got to move it or um we constantly have to adjust, but we set time aside to have a date night, to go do something, um have some sort of an activity. And one of the things that we talked about in this was that including money.
Mm.
Like it doesn't always have to include money. You can do, laid back things.
It doesn't have to be going out to dinner every time.
Right. Which I mean for us has gotten so much cheaper since we're not drinking. But um yeah. So like do you want to share some of the things that we do on date night?
Yeah, so well, part of that I just wanna mention too is, like, having them scheduled in, like, a consistent basis, not
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we haven't had one in a really long time, like, let's plan one now." And I understand for more other people, like, their schedules are more difficult, and so that's why it's important that you're not just relying on being able to go out and have a whole big fancy dinner, like, find other ways to have date nights together and continue to date each other.
Yeah. I think that's the big one is like not just getting so stuck in the routine of your relationship that you don't have dating as a part of it anymore.
Yeah, because when without that, that's part of how those feelings probably start to fade.
Yeah, and you're just kind of hanging out with another person.
Yeah. Some of the things that we do that's not going out to dinner, I mean, like all summer we went on bike rides.
Mm,
That's like my favorite thing. It's
love
just
it.
so fun. We're outside. It's enjoyable. Like we're laughing, joking around, bringing
Grab,
music with us
yeah,
sometimes.
grab the speaker
Yeah.
and sitting in the basket of the bike, just jamming some tunes.
Yeah. And we've done other things just staying at home, like game nights. We've baked cookies together or
Yeah.
just cooked a dinner together in general at home. We've done arts and crafts. We've gone to like different parks and just hung out and relaxed and walked around and sightseeing and just things that are relaxing, easygoing, and allows us to like really be present together.
I mean, yeah, even sometimes like we just want to go on a car ride
Yeah.
and or go to a park, but like just talk. Like I think that's another part of it is like it's not just spending time or making time to date, but also we're enjoying each other's company and having good conversation and making the effort to check in with each other.
Yeah. And I've seen, and I'll say we do this too, is sometimes people see date night as sitting on the couch just throwing on Netflix, and, like, yeah, we've done that too. I think that when it's something that we've scheduled as a date night, we try to be a little bit more conscious of it, like, "Hey, let's make sure we both have our phones put down, and we're
Yeah.
choosing, like, a movie, and we're sitting down for the duration of this and, like, enjoying it together."
Yeah, because it very quickly becomes, especially when it's like a sustained period where like we get in those funks sometimes where it's just like the default, like we're gonna sit down and watch Netflix, and then no one's really paying particular attention to it. The dogs want attention. We're on our phones. There's just a
Yeah.
bunch of screens going. And yeah, I mean, it can be tough to unplug and really be conscious. But when we do take that time, we definitely like feel the reward and the benefit of it.
Yeah, and I think that we always just, um, find other ways to, like, make everyday things fun too.
Yeah,
Um, Sorry, this is kinda going off of date night, but I was
yeah.
thinking about it because we've turned a date night into, like, going and running errands at Target and, like,
I love Target runs.
which is amazing because I feel like most men do not
See,
love Target and love
I
going with their significant other to Target, but we make it so fun.
I just feel like guys have such a thing about like trying to be the macho, manly dude. And like, I'm I literally like did my MMA training. I'm trained to kill, but I will help you design a room. Like, I don't care. I think it's such a I, I think guys just try so hard. Like, it can be fun to just design something, organize something, go have a fun, go shopping. Like, and you know, it's not for everyone, but like I feel like there's also this level of like trying to too hard to not like it.
Mm.
So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so, like, there have been times where we're like, "It's supposed to be date night, but, like, we really have to go run errands, like, let's make it fun somehow," and,
Yeah.
you know, um,
And we'll be like goofy in the car and even
jamming to
just
music.
shopping around and telling jokes. And I think that's another part of it, right? Like that kind of goes back to like dating is like I don't love the term, but like courting, you know,
Mhm,
just like having you're intentionally kind of trying to make the other person laugh and have fun together and um I guess in some cases impress the other, but like really just being able to have fun,
mm.
like especially in adult life. As life gets more complex, not letting that kind of take that fun creative energy out of you.
Yeah, like, that goes back to the everyday realities of needing to do chores and running the household and how all of that can just sometimes take over so much of your time, and we try to, like, have fun with that too. I mean,
Mm,
I'll be doing the dishes, singing random songs, and, like, you're laughing at me, and
yeah,
it makes it fun, it makes it go by, and, it's just a better way of doing it. It's not always like that, but, like, we try
yeah,
to, incorporate that here and there, and it makes those kind of mundane tasks a little more fun and allows us to still be connecting in a way when we're doing not so fun things necessarily.
yeah. I think you know it's really about that perspective shift of like, ah, I got to do this, but like also, you know, how can you make the most of the time you have with the things that you do have to get done?
Yeah.
So being goofy together, right? And then I guess just kind of that last note is like something I already said, but I definitely want to reiterate. If you believe that all relationships are, you know, frankly, gonna go to shit
Mhm.
or not be fun or get boring or lose their spark, you're planning for that. And again, that's your manifestation. Like you're planning for that, you believe that, you're gonna take on those feelings, and that's what you're gonna get
Yeah, that's what you're thinking, so you're gonna start to take actions that prove your thoughts true,
and attract that outcome.
right?
Yeah. So I think that kind of goes to our last little section, which is making time to kind of be there for your partner. So do you want to kind of speak to that?
Yeah, I think that the way that I was talking about it with you was just making time for your partner to share things with you and, their interests, or if there's something going on that's maybe stressful that they want to talk about. Um, we'll sit there. I mean, you just got a new camera. I can't believe you didn't say that in the chatter
Oh,
that you
man.
got a new camera.
I'm so excited for this camera.
So John got a new camera and he's been planning it for weeks. I mean, he's been doing all the research and all of the things that he needs. I can't even tell you like how many hours I think I also spent just listening to him like tell me about what he's learning, the research he did, and like sometimes I was like giggling about it and making fun of him.
You do this thing where you just kind of like you look like you're about to talk and then you just stop and you're like, "All right, I got to just let him go." And I'm just like rambling. And you just kind of sit there smiling at me because, like, you know, I'm excited. And I definitely have like an obsessive personality. Like, there's, you know, something new and I'm going to just dive in and learn so much about it.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I'm very excited for this camera. So I got a like a real professional camera. I've always had cameras, but they were like the very like lightweight, um, sort of professional. But this one is like full blown professional camera. We're gonna be shooting 4K. We're gonna be using it for social media, and I got the gimbal, so we'll have nice stable footage. It's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be a big learning experience in our businesses. But this is really like the tool, for where our lives are heading. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, so as he was researching it and planning to like order it, and I just like let him tell me everything. I mean, we walked our dogs and the entire walk you told me about it, and I just sat there like in silence smiling, and it was like you wanted to share that with me, and so I gave you the time and space to do that because it's something you're excited and passionate about. And so even if I don't necessarily like share the exact same passion and excitement about it, like I'm allowing you to express yourself and giving you the space to share that with me.
Yeah, I think that's so important, like especially like with you even, right? And books and coursework and things. And as you learn, I really try to be patient and be there. And I think there's a level of patience needed for it. And
Mm,
there's also a level of acceptance to kind of give your partner that space, that floor to speak. And I think that's kind of one of the things that's really cool about a relationship is that educational component of we're each always learning things all the
yeah,
time. I'm a big believer in being an eternal student. Like when you stop learning things, you start dying.
yeah,
And we get to do that and share things. We're constantly learning and bringing that into the other one's life and being able to also educate them and teach the other one things.
yeah, definitely. That goes to I just thought of the woman on Instagram that shared that kind of practice called team.
Oh yeah, Cody Sanchez.
Yeah. I mean, we can share that quickly because the education part
Yeah.
made me think of it. So, she says that every night she, with her husband, does this practice. It doesn't take long, but you use like the acronym TEAM. So T is for together, where you're like holding hands or having some, or is it for touch?
Touch.
Okay. Sorry. T
T
is
is
for
for touch.
touch. So you're like holding hands or sitting next to each other and having some sort of like connection. And then E is education. So like you're sharing something that you've learned with your partner. And that just made me think of it because you're always kind of sharing your education and the growth that you're learning. And so that can help your partner learn too.
I, what was A?
Appreciation.
Yep. And then M was metrics.
Yeah. So that's like going into, if there's anything difficult that you need to bring up, anything that was bothering you. And it's kind of allows you to wait until that time to talk about something rather than like in the moment if something bothered you earlier in the day.
Yeah, and having that blow up then, but
Yeah,
also
having
kind
like the
of,
heightened emotions, it's like, okay,
yeah,
you're waiting a few hours and like talking about it in a more like comfortable and safe space.
yeah, yeah. Like coming back down, knowing you have a dedicated time later to check in with each other, have, that physical touch, take time to appreciate each other, share something you learned, and also kind of talk through anything that you're struggling with.
Yeah. So the education part just made me think of that.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too. So I'm glad you mentioned it. Um, so kind of take us through then, making time for each other, having the ability to offer your partner that space to, talk and share, that kind of gets to understanding your partner. And so, do you want to share a little more about love languages?
Yeah, we got into this a little bit in the first episode on relationships, the last episode, but there's a few books on this. I mean, you've probably heard of the five love languages. And so those are, it's really about the way that you receive love. Like, what do you want your partner to do for you that makes you feel loved? And again, that goes back to, you know, continuing to work with your partner to always be showing those feelings of love and making sure your partner knows how you receive it.
Yeah, that's the big one. I think there's a very big tendency to say, like, okay, my love language is, gifts, right? And so you just buy your partner a bunch of gifts, but your partner doesn't want gifts. Your partner's love language is something different. So there's a tendency for people to show love how they
Want to receive it.
want to receive it
Right.
rather than what their partner actually wants.
Yeah. And so the five love languages, and it's said that like we all have like a primary and like a secondary. And, you can go online and take different quizzes to really see what resonates with you. But the five love languages are quality time. So that's just spending time together. That's those date nights.
But being unplugged and
Mm,
present and actually spending time with your partner, not on screens, not, scrolling through memes, but actually being present and enjoying their company.
yeah. Words of affirmation.
That's your I appreciate you and,
Yeah.
being grateful for one another, communicating that and really letting your partner know that they're appreciated.
And it's also complimenting them on
Yeah,
something or on the way they look. It's not always about looks, but
right.
I mean, everybody likes to hear that they look good from their
Yeah,
partner. Like, you can't just like be saying that to your partner at the beginning of your relationship all the time and then just stop.
that's definitely one that's in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
You get out of it and then you just stop complimenting each other. Yeah,
Yeah. Physical touch.
pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, but I mean, like throughout the day, like we give each other hugs.
That's a good one. I sometimes get, I guess, overwhelmed, but not always in a bad sense, right? Like with this, we left our consulting work. We're all in on our brands. I got my first pretty tattoo. I got my camera, and I'm excited for, a much higher caliber of content that we're going to be able to create. And I'm just overwhelmed, like so excited. And you will actually help me, like take a minute, hug each other,
Mm,
take a few breaths, and help me co-regulate so that I can slow back down.
yeah.
And I think that's such a simple thing, but like if you're feeling overwhelmed, I would encourage you to just go over to your partner and just hug them. Just hold each other for a minute. Take a few breaths together.
Yeah.
It really does work. You're essentially helping your nervous system regulate from your partner.
Yeah. The last two are gifts,
Yep.
which I feel like, a lot of people think like that's the thing. I gotta buy my partner stuff. I
Well,
gotta come home
that's
with flowers. I gotta come home with
that's our world.
yeah.
It's very materialistic.
Yeah, and there's always the advertisements or here's the next best thing to buy and
Yep.
whatever. So we always have something that we want and we're looking for. But for both of us, we enjoy receiving gifts on occasion, but it's not our primary
Yeah.
love language. So it's not something I'm thinking about like, oh, is it gonna buy me something? Like,
Yeah, like I think of like the stereotypical like, oh, we got in a fight. I'm buying you a gift or flowers or something. Like I don't feel like we do that. Like
no,
if
I'd rather have quality time with you
right,
to
like
feel
if
better, like to
you know,
reconnect.
if we have a tiff, it's about spending that quality time reconnecting, you know.
Yeah. And the last one is acts of service. So that's doing things for your partner. That's doing something that's helpful to them. Maybe they're stressed about something and you take a chore off their plate. It's, just doing something thoughtful that they'll appreciate the help in having that done for them. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So those are your love languages and that kind of wraps us up. I think we'll kind of circle back on relationships at some point, but I think for now that kind of gives us the foundation.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, leave us a review. That really helps. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.